your body? Yes. That is unusual.
That's where I come in, Mr. Reed. We'd like to continue researching your case with a generous compensation for your time, of course.
Why are you worried about how much they're worth? There's literally something wrong with me.
You don't know that there's anything wrong with you.
Before we begin contracting, Mr. Reed, our company must ask for a demonstration with our researchers to verify the authenticity.
A what?
Hi, I'm Vincent Lamb, and today I'm here with the cast and crew of Auganic, which is one of the live-action short films which has qualified for consideration for the Academy Awards this year. So congratulations, guys. Great to have you with us.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for traveling here, especially on a weekend. Given the extraordinary circumstance of this verification process, we wanted to get all of you here as soon as possible.
I promise you, you're gonna be fine, guy.
How can you be so sure?
Without further delay, here's how we'd like to begin. Any questions?
Let's just start off. I'll get each of you just to introduce yourselves. So Crit, let's start with you.
Hi, my name is Grit Konkrit Walagun, and I'm the director and writer of Auganic.
And Matt.
Yeah, I'm Matt, and I played Kai in the film.
Go ahead, Ken.
I'm Kenny Brain, and I played Nick.
And King Louis.
Hi, I'm King Louis, the producer of Auganic.
Brilliant. Right, great to have you with us, and thanks to all the press that have joined here. So, right, yeah, like I watched the film, Chris. It's bonkers. Like, I mean, like when I heard about it first, I was like, "What's it about?" So, yeah, it's an interesting one, right? So, tell me, first of all, just a bit about the film and what it's about, and what on earth, or where on earth you got the inspiration to tell this story, Chris.
Yeah, so Auganic is an LGBTQIA plus romantic drama about this gay couple who came across this special ability while they were having sex. And this phenomenon kind of came along with the financial promises that would test the boundary of their relationship, as well as they learn the meaning of what love and sacrifices mean to them. When it comes to the inspiration of this film, I think there's like a couple of aspects to it, because I don't think this film is just about one thing. And for me specifically, it started with my relationship with my work as an artist, which is been told through the main character, who is an artist as well. And it was during the time that I came from Thailand and I moved to Canada to basically start a filmmaking career. And the first thing that we have to do is to get a work permit and then become a permanent residency. And just because at that time there wasn't much going on in the film industry, that I could use that as like my path to my residency. So I fell back into graphic design background a little bit, and that's not necessarily something that I wanted to do anymore. And I felt like it was very daunting time in my life. But looking back at it now, I feel a sense of pride to what I have found my growth during that time. And I wanted to replicate that moment in time of my life in a film somewhere, and I didn't want to just like write about my own experience. So I starting to look back at my dream journal and trying to see like what interesting idea I came up with. over the years, and I've just found one that just said a guy who came gold, and I'm not sure where exactly that came from. I thought it was kind of like an interesting avenue to explore within the context of a romantic relationship, and that's where I started to like, oh hey, it kind of remind me a little bit of the folktale, the Golden Goose. So that's why I combined the two ideas together.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it's a crazy idea, Chris. If you don't mind me saying, right? Like, when I heard it first, I was thinking, okay, this is going to be like a screwballs comedy or something, and then I was surprised that it's not really a comedy. It's quite sensitive, how it's dealt with, and I think that's what I love so much about it. That it's everything is played for real, and it feels like it's about something so much more than what we see on the surface. So give me your take on that. I mean, what I mean, was that important to you? I mean, to get the sensitivity across in the relationship. I mean, really, it's what's it about in your mind?
I think when we were starting, or at least for me, when I started writing this film, you're right, like it's a very absurd idea, and I felt like, oh, I should have done it as a comedy. That makes sense. But then as I started developing the script as well as collaborating with everyone in King, my producer Matt and Kenny, my actors, as well as my cinematographer Joseph, we found that it's much more about these two people and not so much about the plot of the film. That's more like the goal is more like a metaphor representation of this relationship and not the other way around. So we found it that it's actually a more sensitive story, and that's why we decided to leave most of the comedic side away, and then focusing on the romantic side and what these two guys are going through together. And yeah, I think there's still a little bit of humor within the film, like those deadpan comedic moments that I think work well, just because we're not focusing on so much on the comedy, I think.
Right. So there's two really lovely performances here from Matt and Kenny, who we've got with us. Really beautiful. So yeah, well done, guys. Yeah, I really liked it. Lovely chemistry between the two of you. There's a question here, like from one of the journalists about casting, right? So before we go to you, Matt and Kenny, do you want to just tell us a little bit about that, Chris, and what your thought process was like in casting these two leads?
With the casting, I have worked with Kenny before on my previous film called Plantonic, which is a magical realism film as well. And I knew already like what he can bring to the table. And this role, when I was writing it, I already picturing him taking the role of Nick. So we had a conversation probably like a few months before we shoot, and I asked him if he wanna do it, and then he said yes. So we're like, great, we have Nick now. And then we start doing audition for the remaining roles, including one of the leading roles, Kai. And that took a while because it was during that time that so many production was shooting in Vancouver. And we found Matt through his audition tape. And then I asked him to come in to do a chemistry test with Kenny, because this is a film about a married couple after all. So the chemistry is really important. So we did that, and then we found our guy.
Right. Okay. Well, right. So, Matt, first of all, there you are. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. A lovely performance. It's really great. I mean, we're kind of, I think the viewer is sort of on your side from the beginning, and you're very relatable and everything in the film. I love how you play everything for real. So, like, tell me what your thoughts were, like when you first heard this like crazy idea, and what the film was about, like.
Yeah, I mean, because it's interesting, like what even Crit said in regards to like this was a time when, there's a lot of Vancouver actors getting casted, and I had just moved to Vancouver, like, and that was during the pandemic still. And so I was going through my own existential crisis. And so I don't know, but like, so I was on Actors Access and I read the premise, and it was kind of like, it was the same thing. I saw the premise and I was like, what the hell? This is like, I thought the same thing. And I think there's a lot of writer directors who will maybe make something provocative for the sake of being provocative. And so that was kind of my initial impression of it. But then Crit had sent me the script, and I realized how much thought and care and like how humanistic this story was. Like I fell in love with the script instantly. And so, yeah, I worked really hard on that audition, right? And obviously
this sort of script, right, that has the potential to be, you know, either really, really good or absolutely terrible, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
You
yeah,
know,
yeah,
I'm glad it turned out really good. You know, it's
yeah.
great. But I mean, were you apprehensive about that? That they
I think,
would end up in something that was just going to be absolutely terrible. Like,
well, and I mean, yeah, what I was saying is like, there's just, I don't know, some like, you know, sometimes people, some artists can write a script, like make this premise, and it's like just, I don't know, maybe it's from a shallow place. Like I just knew when I read the script, it's like Crit is coming from like a very like I felt I could feel Crit bleeding on the page. And that's really important for like
right,
if we're choosing roles and everything. Like I think that's the mutual agreement between like a director and actor is kind of like I'm gonna give you my like soul, and Craig gave his soul to this script, and everyone like behind the scenes too, like the crew, everyone really put so much into this project, and I think that's something that definitely comes through in the film. So I mean, yeah, like I mean that, and that's just something like you can just like yeah, I was reading the script and it was just it was beautiful. Like I'm pretty sure like you know it like you have this script where it's like a guy you know the premise is what it is, and then I'm like near tears at the end of the script, and
mm.
that was very profound to me.
It's yeah, no, I mean what makes it so interesting is that and surprising is that it's not a comedy, you know, it's a drama. Well, I guess there's comedic moments in it.
Yeah, of course.
But okay, so tell me just a bit about, you know, your character first of all, and what you feel is going through Kai's head, you know, when he discovers this phenomenon.
Yeah. Well, yeah, the I mean, I always like resonated with the melancholy and Kai, and I had some stuff in my own life that I was like, and again, because it's a story about artists, like an artistry and everything, I think it wasn't necessarily a huge reach for me at certain moments to get inside of this character and to try to understand that like really weird, surreal feeling he was going through in the sense that, I mean, even to like have the sense that he has some sort of gift or something was, I don't know, I think it was like the imposter syndrome of Kai was something I really resonated with, and how that imposter syndrome can sabotage you as a person, right? Like like how when those kind of things happen, when good things happen in life, I know for myself that there can be a psychology that starts to self-sabotage and like almost like wants to stifle that. And I think that's the thing that I really resonated with in Kai, where he felt like he was in this really contorted place. So that's what I would say was like,
Right.
and there's so much nuance within that, but yeah, that's what I would say
It's
initially.
definitely an interesting role. Yeah, yeah. You don't see that every day. Like, so tell me, how are you? Hey, like, yeah, also a really lovely, grounded performance. I thought, you know, and that's what this film succeeds because of. I think because of these really nice, grounded performances. So you'd worked with Crit before, on was another film, was it? What, Plantonic? Is that what it's called?
Iconic.
Right. Also an interesting title, actually. I like both of the titles. Organic, Plantonic. Yeah, nice play on words there. Right. So tell me, you know, when he approached you with this one, you know, do you probably had an idea of what to expect from working with him before? Did you have any apprehensions about going into this project with him?
Absolutely. I like everybody kind of said, the subject matter is not exactly normal. You know what I mean? So I think if I hadn't have worked with Crit prior to, I would have been even more apprehensive. I knew what he can put forward. I knew the vision he has and the storytelling abilities that he has. And I also, even though it was a little left field subject matter wise, the script itself, I think is also relatable. I think it's very relatable. You know, it's about two people. It's about connection. It's about stressing and strife and life, and you know what can either pull people apart or bring them even closer together. So when I was reading the script, personally, I had skin in that game. I've been in a certain similar situation with a past ex. You know what I mean? He was an artist. It was during the pandemic. We had money troubles. So it wasn't so far fetched for me to kind of step into Nick and be that that comfort system, that safety net for somebody who was going through something similar. So definite reservations at first, but as we kind of talked more about it, I was sold.
Right. So it's such a bizarre situation that you guys find yourselves in, and you're playing everything for real, which is great, but I guess it's, I mean, what I got from the film was that it's sort of about the struggles in your relationship. But tell me a bit about, your character and what, what you feel is going through your head and in the relationship with Kai.
I think it was about, that caretaker role, that you kind of build this life for somebody and you have this connection, this love that you're trying to foster and you're trying to build regardless of the worldly pressures that are around you. In this case, the farm, having to sell the farm and having to support your partner in their passions as well, even though it's not necessarily lending to being in a financially stable place. So I think Nick was just trying to be the best that he could possibly be for his partner and allowing him to be who he wanted to be. And that's why I kind of loved when Kai was kind of breaking down and getting angry, kind of being like, what do you think this is? Why are you want me to kind of put myself out there for monetary gains? But in my mind, I think it was like, hey, come on, like this is going to give you the chance to pursue your passions, but also keep the farm. So it was kind of the logic in it I really connected with.
Yeah, it's an interesting one. I mean, there's financial struggles, but there's something else going on as well. So King Louis, the producer of the film, is here with us as well, and good to have you. Tell me how this started for you.
Yeah, I mean, again, like I'm also aware of Crit's work before, like the Plantonic. So I kind of know like what his vision or his style is, and he kind of just like asked like meet. We met and kind of like pitch me the idea. Obviously, at first I was like, yes, gay film, love that, and kind of like, okay, let's keep it going. What is this about? And obviously, the gold semen kind of like took me out of the park. I'm like, okay, yeah, let's go. Like there's no hesitation for me. I think when I kind of like heard about the idea of the gold semen, I was like very curious about it. At first, like I read kind of
You
like
would be, wouldn't you? Like,
yeah, it's like a big hook. But obviously, like as you guys mentioned, everyone mentioned, I thought it's like a comedy, but again, like as kind of like I read the script on and on, it's kind of like, okay, this is more about the the semen itself. It's about the relationship, like what Kenny is saying. But yeah, like for me as a producer, my take on my films that I produce and I create is more about the intricacy of like different types of relationship. And as a gay person as well, and dealing with like past toxic relationship, it's kind of like took me in the same feeling about that. That's kind of like this story is more about the complication of like of being a part of the gay community in per se. So that's kind of like one of the ideas. That's kind of like, yes, I'll do this. I'll do the best I can to support your.
right. I mean,
Yeah.
it definitely stands out, right? When you read, if you're at a film festival or something and you're reading log lines, like this is definitely one that would get your attention. So tell me what it's been like, the reaction to the film at film festivals.
Yeah, I mean it's been great. I mean, like as you already mentioned, like just even like me pitching the log line to people, like to film festivals, like, hey, this is the film about, and they're like, yeah, let's watch it. And obviously all the same reactions to everyone. They're like, oh, okay, I thought it's a comedy, but it's more drama, it's very endearing, it's very complicated, I would say, but complicated in a good way. But yeah, it's been really good. We have been screening quite a few festivals already, and obviously winning at Dead Center in Oklahoma, and now we're here.
Right, Craig, back to you then. Right. I mean, so there's a brilliant chemistry like that I thought, between the two leads here. And is that something that was important to you? And how did you go about creating that chemistry between the two actors?
I don't know if it was much of a challenge really, because I think we got really lucky with these two guys. Like they have natural chemistry already. I think we only did one chemistry test in person, and then we did a little bit of like a read through on Zoom, and then they go into rehearsal immediately. And even from that, like I can already feel like we're gonna get great chemistry on screen. Like I didn't feel like as a director I had to work so much with these two. They got along really quickly, I think, at least in my opinion. Yeah, like I said, like this is a film about a married couple, a gay marriage couple as well, and I think that's important that it translate authentically on screen, and we work hard to get that on screen. But as far as how much I had to work with Matt and Kenny, I would say very little in terms of like to get them to feel like a real couple.
Right. So here, there's a lot of questions coming in from journalists, so I'll try and get through some of these. Right. So there's one from Jenny Kermode from Film. Can you talk about the visual contrast between the rich organic environment and the farm, on the farm, yeah, and the cold clinical spaces, right? That was something that got me, right? It was very interesting. Like there's the boardroom and it's very cold and clinical, but then you got these lovely warm tones surrounded by nature when we see them on the farm. So tell us a bit about that.
When I started working with my cinematographer Joseph Chuyes and my production designer Sky Dyken, we kind of had this conversation about what can we do visually that translate to the audience that this is like a very slow lifestyle kind of small town, and especially for these two, which serve that story. And we found the power in the simplicity of it all. So we want to try to like give the audience a little bit more time to breathe, give the character a little bit more time to absorb all this information. So when it comes to both cinematography and the production design, we try to keep it very grounded. We want the farm to feel very homey, very live in, and essentially we want the audience to feel like this is the house and the farm that like we want to save, right? In the contrast to the ballroom and the medical examination room, which is very cold, very distant, very bleak almost. So we want to build that contrast between the two, as well as not doing too many shots is one of the things that we talk about as well. Doing very like focus angle, staying on one angle longer than normally. And I think that helps to build like the authenticity within the story.
Okay, right. So from film business, for Kenny and Matt here, they say, right, so there's some sensitive scenes in the film. You know, how did you prepare for those? And you know, also what drew you to the script? You've kind of covered that, but yeah, okay. So talking about the sensitive scenes, right? I mean, there's, for example, there's a sex scene in the film. You know, is that something that you were apprehensive about? Matt, first, maybe do you want to take that, and then we'll move to you, Kenny?
Yeah, and yeah, I mean we were working with for the sex scene, I'll take that one on first, is the we were working with intimacy coordinators, and they were incredible. Like Principal's Intimacy, right? King. Yeah. Principal's Intimacy, and like that team is just incredible. And it was like I correct me if I'm wrong, Kenny, but it was both our first time ever doing a scene like that. And yeah, and it was yeah, I mean it was like choreography, really. Like there was so much care, and we had a lot of conversations about the storytelling and how our physical movements could help tell the story better and everything. And so like when it came to the day, it was just honestly a lot of fun. And you know, you're like in a full-blown sex scene, and then it's like cut, and then you put on the robes, and then you take off the robes, and someone's spraying you with glycerol to make you more shiny and everything. So I don't know. I find that really, like, I mean, that's wild to me. Like I get to, like, we both got to do something like that. And just in regards to like approaching the sensitivity, I mean, what really helped me do that was just, I mean, having a lot of conversations with the team. Like Crit and I had a lot of conversations about the materials and everything, and about approaching the content. And yeah, and like, and the biggest thing is also just Kenny and I, like, we went for dinner one night, and it was just like we talked about the subject matter, and we talked about its relevancy, and just like I think got to know each other. And I think there was a trust that was established there and everything. And I think that's the thing that, at least for me, helped me really open up in the scene. It's just because, yeah, like, I mean, getting a lot of trust in the casting project process and everything. The sun just like came right in my eyes.
Right, just now. Yeah, all right. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Whoa. But I'll let Kenny take it away.
So Kennedy, right? Yeah, do you want to chime in on that and tell us your experience of like approaching, you know, those sensitive scenes?
I think Matt really kind of hit the nail on the head there. I think it comes down to trust. You can have all the conversations in the world, and we did cover everything that you possibly can cover, but when it comes down to it, you just have to trust the direction of Crit, and you have to trust, you know, that you're in good hands with Matt. And I think you need to just kind of dive in head first. I know mentally, all the preparations that I was doing or had done didn't really matter once it got into it. You know, it was, you know, you go through the step by step with the intimacy coordinators, and it is very mechanical. But I know that when we first, I don't know if you remember this, the very first scene, because you're wearing these like privacy garter things, I don't even know what you call them, and we, you know, Crit yells action, and this is their first scene doing it, and the tape kind of let go a little bit, and he runs into the room and he yells cut. He said, you know, we have a wardrobe malfunction. I look down, and it kind of broke the ice, I think, for moving forward with the scene. So I think that kind of softened it a little bit, so we can, you know, as serious and sensitive as it was, we felt more comfortable doing it.
Okay, right. Okay, so here's a good one, right, from film business, right? Well, I've just lost it now. I've gone off it, right? But he was asking, right, you know, was it important to make this like an LGBTQ story, you know, and not just a heterosexual couple going through something like this? I mean, was that an intentional choice? Crit first.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, well, I am a gay man myself, so that's why I'm so interested in this subject. And first and foremost, I want to make a film that I can fall in love with, but also a type of film that I think my younger self would appreciate when I was going through like my own confusion with sexuality, and there wasn't much in terms of like representations back then. It was either we were pigeonholed into doing something very tragic, very traumatic with our experience, or something very comedy centric that it's almost like we're the butt of the joke. So when I feel like in this recent year there is a positive shift within the representation for sure, and while those very traumatic stories are still very important to tell, I feel like it's also important to tell the lighter story and a more hopeful representation of queer cinema, and something that I think my younger self would resonate with, and perhaps other people can resonate with this story as well, and that is kind of why I make it LGBTQ, as well as like showing the lighter side of our community.
Right.
Maybe King touch base on that as well.
King, like was that an important reason for you to want to make this film as well?
Yeah, definitely. Like, I think one thing for me is when I talk to directors is like, why are they the ones who need to tell the story? And I think, Crit is, you know, like, as like, you know, we share kind of like similar background. He's from Southeast Asia. I'm from Southeast Asia too. Like, he's Thai, I'm Filipino, and I'm also gay, very gay. So, I think for me, like coming after this story, I think one of the things that I kind of mentioned to him, and also to people that I spoke to regarding like producing contents, like queer contents, is like, I think for me specifically is Auganic is like a good representation of what kind of films we want to see as queer people. Again, like as Crit mentioned, like while all the other queer stories are good, like are relevant, like about bullying or like homophobia or like being made of fun of, or the gay best friend, I would say. I think for us, it's like I think we're not the right people to tell those stories. I myself, like I didn't go through that phase. So I think for me it's important for me to like just go deeper on like what kind of queer relationships are like. And though even though, like as I mentioned, those are great and relevant, I think there are other people who's best to tell those stories. And I think for us, Crit and I, like this is like the type of stories we want to tell and kind of like put in the LGBTQ table of like, and like these are the films that we want to put on. And again, also with like the social and political climate that we are in, I think it's important to just show, again, just more deeper on like queer relationships are also dealing with like what gender or like what sex orientation you are in. Like this, again, like this is about two couples dealing with something. Are they gonna stay together or are they gonna not? So again, it's universal.
Okay, so Jonathan Bliss asks here, what was the biggest challenge in making the film? Hey, do you want to take that, Crit, and then I'll get your take on it as well, King. Crit, let's hear from you first.
I want to add to the last point a little
Oh yeah,
bit. This is about a gay couple, but it is also a very universal experience. But I also wanted to make sure that we're not just focusing on the darker side of being LGBTQ individuals, and also show that there's light in our everyday life, and like something as mundane as like taking care of the farm can be just as interesting showing it through a queer lens. And about the challenge about this film, I would say just because everybody was just so efficient, there's not too much of like the challenge when it comes to shooting the film and everything. But if I have to come up with one, it would be the last shot of the film where we have to show the gold liquid on top of Kenny. And when we were testing it, we were testing it on his arm, and we were like, okay, that's look great. It was shown on camera, and when we actually shot it, we have to put it on his stomach, which Kenny is a hairy guy, and the liquid kind of sink through his stomach quite a bit. That no matter how much we put it, it just won't show on camera. So we have to, okay, we're just gonna shoot the plate, and as much as I don't want to say fix it in post, we had to do that for that shot.
oh really? That's
Yeah, luckily, we got to work with this Trilly VFX, which where King was working with at the time, and they came in and helped us pretty much do that as a VFX. So the last
wow.
shot of the liquid was a VFX shot.
It looks great. I wouldn't have known that was VFX. Right. So King, for you, what would you say was the biggest challenge with this film?
I mean, obviously, this is like independent and self-funded film,
Oh, is it?
but
I didn't know that.
yeah,
Right. I imagine it would be a tricky one to get funding for.
yeah. I mean,
Right.
I mean, like that's also like a struggle. I think for me as a producer is like pitching it to other people is because like the like the gold semen, and it's very intimate type of film. It's hard for people to kind of like, again, like they're pretty like, oh, like this is too much for me. So I think some people kind of like back off a little bit, but I
I
think
would
like,
imagine. Yeah. I mean, a lot of people thought you were crazy to be making
yeah.
this film, right?
Yeah, but I think like the crew that we have, I mean, like this is like one of the smallest crew that I work with. We have like about less than 20 people, like about including the cast, like about 25 people. So I guess like we did great. I mean, there's obviously like the usual like production challenges, but again we kind of push it through. But again, like I think what, like as Kurt mentioned, like the challenge was the gold semen at the end, because I work with my team at Distiller VFX at the time, and we work on films like The Last of Us, which won us an Emmy. So I mean,
Okay.
like even for the team, it was hard. We were like trying to do any animatics or like anything
Right.
lighting make this look great, and our nose is like, is it too liquidy, is it too what kind of like thickness it would be. So but again, like we made it work, and the team at Distillery kind of did.
You were shooting during a pandemic, am I right? Is it that was the time you were filming? Is that correct?
It's about like
Or
it's
was it after the pandemic? No,
yeah, it's like January 2023, so it's kind
oh,
of
was it?
like
Okay, so
still
things had opened up again, right? That wasn't a major
it's
issue for
still,
you.
yeah, it's still open
Right.
up. Yeah, it's still
Okay,
open up,
right.
but there's still like COVID parameters, I would say, was set.
Right, right, okay. All right, so like back to the actors here. Like let's hear something more from Matt and Kenny. Like it seems very natural. I mean, like and the two of you seem very connected and natural together. I mean, was there much you had to do to kind of develop that bond? And was there improvisation with you guys, or is that all scripted? Matt, you want to take it first? Your
Uh,
lights off, Matt. Yeah.
I because we would do a lot of rehearsals. Like the three of us, me, Crit, and Kenny, we did rehearsals, and I do remember we would talk about the script, and Crit was the writer, and yeah, we did play. Like I think Kenny and I would riff, and we'd rehearse, and I think we did change a few lines. I do remember we did do some edits on the script all together in collaboration, just talking about the story. So I think that was the extent of what we did. So we found a lot in rehearsal. That was a really important process, I think, for us to get more comfortable with on the shooting day and everything, which is why we were so efficient, I think. I don't know if Kenny, if you have anything else to add to that.
Yeah, no, I think you kind of hit it there. Like us kind of getting to know each other a little bit prior to definitely helped. You know, like you said, going out for dinner and kind of seeing where we're both coming from, and even our just lives in general, I think will definitely helped. But there was a little bit of riffing here and there. I think the isms in between were kind of ad lib between both of us, like the little kisses here and there. And I know actually the final scene, the challenging one when we were the sunset, because we were going against light and also temperature, because it was freezing in that field. It's hard not to like do this while you're trying to be sensitive. I think I was a little bit more aggressive in the scene, because I felt like that was like my breaking point. I think that was a little bit off script from what Crit had originally envisioned, but yeah, I think it was just more so getting to know each other a little bit beforehand and just being comfortable with each other.
So you had the time to work together. That's great. Yeah, well, I mean, it does create a lovely on-screen relationship and a great connection there. So here's one right from Heidi. She says the idea of sacrifices partners take in a relationship is universal, where you need to make sacrifices. So she's asking both of you, Kenny and Matt. Yeah, did you draw from a personal experience, if any, to depict that dynamic so well, the sacrifices in a relationship? Kenny, I don't know. Do you want to take that?
Yeah, I would say absolutely. I think that, like I mentioned a little earlier on, that was part of the reason that I was so interested in this script, is that I had a similar experience where he was an artist, and being an artist during the pandemic isn't exactly fruitful. A lot of times it's very stressful, and having to be that comfort, to that safety net for somebody, and having to kind of be there for them as they're going through these challenges, was something that I had done previously. So that's kind of when we were going through the scenes, and I read the script, and then we finally actually executed it. That's where I was. I was actually just fully transported into that point in time where I had to be that for somebody. So it was pretty close to home.
Okay, so right, we're actually kind of running out of time already, amazingly. So let me just come back to you, Chris. Like, I mean, what would you hope audiences would want to take away from the film after seeing it?
I guess this film, what I try to do is that to show the element of the truth within this relationship through, even though it was through like this magical realism and with the folklore and everything. At the core, it is about how they compromise within the relationship, and it is about the artist coming to term with maintaining his artistic integrity, as well as willing to work for his partner. And yeah, I think that is a very universal type of stories, and I hope it resonates with the audience as well as gay audience. That's mainly who I want to reach out to the most.
Right. Well, I mean, it's a great film. It's an interesting one. It certainly stands out. I love the sensitivity and the humanity that's there, which is, actually quite unexpected, and not necessarily evident on the surface. But really great. I'll be rooting for you and hope to see you there on the short list. So final question, I'll just ask you, what would it mean to you to make the short list for the Academy Awards with this film, Chris?
I guess it would be anyone's dream to get there for sure. This is not the type of thing that we expected when we started making this film. Like, I wasn't having any thought about getting shortlist or even nomination or something like that. We just wanted to make a great film, but it would be such an honor to be there with so many amazing films that qualified this year. And yeah, maybe I'll let King speak on that a little bit.
Okay, King, yeah, go ahead, yeah.
No, I think for me, I think yeah, Crit mentioned like when we're making a film, it's just like yeah, we were just having fun. Let's create this great story and see what the audience will take away. Not expecting we're gonna get here, but I think like going to the short list will just kind of like elevate like what kind of like queer relationships are again as like the social and political climate that we are. Like we kind of want to see more of like this type of relationship and like how our type of relationship regardless of gender or sex orientation it's we're dealing with this intimacy identity and kind of like issues that we're having so having our film in that table and that stage is it's kind of like more uplifting and kind of like bring more queer stories to the forefront. Yeah.
Right. Well, hope you make it, guys. Thanks so much to the journalists there for all the questions. Matt, Kenny, thanks so much for joining us today. And Crit King, so nice chatting to you about the film. I'll be rooting for you. Thanks so much, guys. Thanks for joining us. It's been really nice talking to you, and best of luck with the film.
Thank
Thank you.
you. Thank you for having us.